Have you ever felt overwhelmed trying to support your child's reading and writing skills? Well, you're not alone. And if your child is a struggling reader, then this video is for you. There's so much advice out there, and some of it is conflicting. So it's hard to know what actually works. But in today's video, I'm going to break down the 5 parts of reading that every child needs to become a reading superstar. And I'm also going to share some simple things that you can do to help them along. So let's dive in. Some people think literacy is only the teacher's job. And another popular myth is that reading to your child every night is all you need to do. The truth is a little more complicated than that, but it's no surprise if you're feeling unsure or even frustrated about where to begin, because unfortunately, schools don't always give parents the tools they need to continue building literacy skills at home. As a result, way too many of our kids fall behind, lose confidence, and then struggle to catch up. Believe me, I've seen it more times than I care to admit, and it's heartbreaking. Just a few weeks ago, a friend of mine messaged me about her 8th grade son who's reading at like a 4th or 5th grade level, and she asked for ways to help him. It's tough to hear stories like that because it raises the question, how in the heck did the system let him get all the way to the doorstep of high school without making sure he could read on grade level? This is more common than you think. And a big problem is that parents don't even realize their kids are struggling until they're far behind. Maybe they're in upper elementary or middle school, and they're wondering, why didn't anybody tell me that there was a problem sooner? After all, if your child is being promoted to the next grade, it's not unnatural to assume that they're on track. The good news is, it's never too late to start making a difference. And there are so many ways that you can help your child. You just have to know what to do, because knowing is half the battle. Okay. Shout out to the G.I. Joe reference for those of you that are old enough to remember that cartoon. One challenge is that literacy is more complex than it seems, because reading and writing aren't just about sounding out words. It involves a mix of skills that can be tricky to break down. But here's something I want to emphasize. A lot of focus is placed on K through 2 reading skills, but literacy doesn't stop being important after the 2nd grade. You can find a ton of advice for early literacy all over YouTube and Google, but late elementary and early middle school years in particular are critical times to dig into what I call middle literacy. You have to support your child's growth as a reader and writer, and older kids who are struggling readers need to focus on the same foundational early literacy skills that for some reason they missed or didn't master during those early years. Struggling readers aren't doing everything wrong. We just need to investigate to see which part they're having issues with and plug the holes with some simple strategies that work to improve their comprehension. Because the goal of reading, of course, is to understand. Okay, so let's start with the 5 parts of reading. They're phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Good readers have a command of each of these. So let's break them down a little further. First, there's phonics. Phonics is knowing the sounds that the letters or groups of letters make. For example, knowing the corresponding sounds of all 26 letters. Also knowing digraphs. That's when 2 letters make one sound, like a CH says ch, or a CK says k, TH, and SH, sh. Trigraphs are 3 letters that make one sound, like DGE says j, or TCH says ch. You also have vowel combinations like OA or EE. Next is phonemic awareness. This is closely related to phonics, but it's the ability to identify and manipulate individual sounds in words. For example, blending sounds together, like the basic CAT, k, a, t, or a more complex b, a, j, like badge. Breaking apart or counting individual sounds in words, How many sounds in badge? There are 3. B, A, J. Or being able to delete sounds from words. If I say the word smile and then ask you to remove the S sound, what word is left? You guessed it, mile. Poor spellers also struggle with phonemic awareness. Next is fluency. Fluency is reading at a good pace accurately with expression. The goal is to make reading sound natural, like when you're talking. Accuracy means reading what you see on the page without substitutions that change the meaning of the sentence or without leaving out words altogether. Expression refers to good intonation or changing your voice to make reading enjoyable. Vocabulary. Vocabulary is understanding what words mean in context while reading or based on the way it's used in a sentence. And lastly is comprehension. This is understanding what is read, not only in terms of understanding the words, but gaining meaning from them in terms of the author's message and purpose. I'll go deeper into each of these in subsequent videos, but I'll link some more information about the 5 parts of reading for you to check out in the description below. So here's what you're looking for. Number 1, if your child guesses at words based on the first letter or a picture, if they struggle to break down unfamiliar words into individual sounds and then blend them back together to sound them out, which is also known as decoding, if they're mispronouncing words with difficult sound combinations, or if they're going very slowly when reading longer words with more than one syllable, this points to a phonics issue. And here's what you can try. Pick 2 to 3 sounds to focus on at a time and practice repeated readings of words or short texts highlighting the sounds to help them learn that letter sound combination. Number 2, if your child is substituting sounds within words, struggling to sound out or blend unfamiliar words, if they're guessing words based on context rather than decoding, if they're having difficulty with similar sounding words or skipping or adding sounds in a word, even if they know the letter sounds generally, this points to a phonemic awareness issue. And here's what you can try. Play word games to help them recognize and manipulate sounds in words, like counting sounds in words, breaking apart words into their sound parts, or adding or removing sounds in words to make new words. Number 3, if your child is a slow word-for-word robot reader, or if they're a speed reader not paying attention to punctuation, meaning they're blowing by commas or periods, if they're skipping words or substituting words that are not in the text at all, or if they're not changing their tone of voice or intonation when the text calls for it, like going up at the end of a question mark, or being excited at an exclamation mark, or ignoring narrative cues in dialogue. He shouted or she whispered. This points to a fluency issue. And here's what you can try. Echo reading gives them an example to follow of what good reading sounds like. You can read a sentence first and then have them repeat you with the same voice inflections and pace. If you're uncomfortable doing it, you can get audiobooks and have them listen, stop the audio, and then repeat 1 or 2 sentences at a time. Scooping is also a great strategy to combat robot reading by having your child scoop up 3 to 4 words in a sentence at a time so they begin reading in longer phrases rather than word for word like a robot. Number 4, if your child mispronounces or entirely skips words while reading, has difficulty answering questions about what they read, or retells the story incorrectly, if they have trouble with similes or metaphors, or they guess at unknown words, or if they come right out and repeatedly ask what words mean, this points to a vocabulary issue. Here's what you can try. Review words and their meanings that you think that they may have trouble with ahead of time, especially if they're important to the meaning of the story. Keep it to around 5 words or so. And then ask them about the meaning in context when they come across the word in the story. Have them create mini dictionaries of words that they learned in context, and be sure to have them include an illustration. Research says that when kids draw a picture, they retain information much better by tying a visual to the meaning. And number 5, if your child has trouble asking or answering questions about what they read, if they can't accurately retell or summarize what they read, or if they have difficulty making predictions, this points to a comprehension issue. And here's what you can try. Have your child read in chunks. Based on age, they can read a few sentences to a paragraph to a whole page, and then you should stop them and ask them to summarize what they just read. If they can't tell you, scale back the chunk and ask again. Have them find the evidence in the text to support their summary, like which sentence or paragraph gave them that information. In addition to summaries, ask questions about story events and ask them if they have any questions about what they've read or any predictions that they can make based on their reading. Keep practicing until they can clearly and thoughtfully discuss whatever they read. Okay, so I know I just shared a lot, but I don't want you to be overwhelmed. These skills take time and practice to master. After all, they're really meant to be learned over several school years, but it won't take that long for your child to regain their footing. You just have to be diligent and consistent. So parents like you play a vital role in helping to turn things around for your child. Last year, my assistant principal asked if I would help a 5th grader learn to read because he was a non-reader. And of course, he had become a behavior problem. Naturally, he couldn't do the 5th grade work. And I'm sure he didn't want classmates finding out that he couldn't read. So it was easier to just walk out or act up to get kicked out. We arranged for him to come to my classroom after school a few times a week for extra help. And he was willing at first, but after a week or two, he stopped showing up because his parents didn't like him coming home later and they didn't prioritize it. That's why I want to empower parents with the knowledge and tools to support their child's literacy journey. If they knew what to do, they could have helped him at home, and it would have made a difference, not just in his academic success, but in building his confidence and love for learning. Let's work together to give our kids the gift of literacy. I'd love for you to share any experiences in the comments below of what's worked for you and what hasn't, as well as any challenges you're facing. Don't forget to check out the links in the description below for the examples of strategies I discussed in this video, and let me know which ones you try and how they work for you. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, share with another parent, and if you haven't already, subscribe for more tips and strategies. Together, we can crack the literacy code and set our kids up for lifelong success, because every child deserves to love reading and writing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.